Hi good people, even though there is no such polarity in this life as good or bad, I'm still gonna call you good people. Last video that I made was about my own understanding, my self-reflections, thinking out loud about meaning of life. What's true meaning of life? I tried to answer this question based on my own experience and observations about life. Now in this video, I got interested in what are the most common understanding of different psychologies, different people, most prominent explanations of the meaning of the life. Does life have any meaning? What other people think about it? I want to see it, so let's do it together. I made some research about this topic, and what I found out that all philosophies on the meaning of life seem to fall into one of the four groups. These are: life has an objective meaning, life has a subjective meaning, life has no meaning, life has a supernatural, unexplainable meaning. That's the four categories of the philosophy about the meaning of life. Also, there is interesting difference between Eastern and Western philosophy. Easterns think in terms of we, the community, while Westerns think in terms of I, the individual. Let's follow history of philosophy chronologically. And start with natural pantheism. Which dates back to the prehistoric times. Pantheism is the belief that God is in everything, that all things together comprise an all-encompassing God. The meaning of life is in living in harmony with all that there is. Then we have to talk about theism, which also dates back to prehistoric times. Theism is the proposition that God or a supreme being exists. The meaning of life is then prescribed by the God that one believes in. Theism dates back to the dawn of humanity, where it was practiced in its various forms depending on what a group of humans believed their God to be like. Next one is Taoism. I don't know, Taoism. I hope I pronounced these words rightly because I'm not native in English, sorry for that. It dates back to circa 5th century before Christ. Taoism offers people a painless way of finding life's meaning through Wu Wei, action without intention, or naturalness. Such action leads to finding the Tao, which is the way. Once again, it's a very important concept. Let's repeat. Taoism offers people a painless way of finding life's meaning through Wu Wei, which is action without intention, or naturalness. Action without intention. Such action leads to finding the Tao, which is the way. Yet, the way cannot be understood through any explanation or action. The Tao reveals itself only when a person simply is. From what I have read so far, Taoism is probably close to my own understanding that I formulated in my previous video. The Tao reveals itself when a person simply is. So you find the meaning of life when you simply are, without taking action with intention. Interesting, is not it? And then we go to determinism, which is originated circa 6th century before Christ. Determinism is the idea that all events happen as a result of previously existing causes, so it's similar to karma. Since nothing can be changed in the predetermined world, a person cannot have free will. The meaning of life is there is one, is also predetermined, and we cannot do anything to understand it. So we are basically robots. The idea of determinism is ancient. One of its most known representatives is French philosopher and mathematician René Descartes. Next one that we will talk about is Confucianism. Confucius originated circa 5th century before Christ. Chinese philosopher Confucius tells us to cultivate virtue called Ren, which is an altruistic sort of feeling one experiences when taking care of one's children and parents. One of many ways Confucius explained virtue is this, quote, "Now the man of perfect virtue, wishing to be established himself, seeks also to establish others. Wishing to be enlarged himself, he seeks also to enlarge others. To be able to judge of others by what is high in ourselves. This may be called the art of virtue." So in my understanding, basically, what is it? It is about helping the others, trying to self-develop, and this process leads you to be a better community member. That's the meaning of life. Then we go to Mohism. Once again, sorry if I pronounce these terms not so correctly in English. It's not my native language, but I hope you understand concepts at least. So Mohism appeared around 5th century before Christ. The Mohism proposed the concept of inclusive love, a kind of impartial care for fellow human beings that includes everyone in society. The meaning of life is in following the model called a FA, in which one's psychological state of care and the beneficial behavior that results from it are two sides of the same coin. Once again, the Eastern philosophers emphasize on being a prominent community player. Then we go to solipsism, which appeared also around 5th century before Christ. Solipsism is a theory that one can only be certain about one thing, one's mind to exist. Solipsism was first recorded by the Greek sophist Gorgias, who is reported to have said, first, nothing exists. Second, even if something exists, nothing can be known about it. And third, even if something could be known about it, knowledge about it can't be communicated to others. The meaning of life, according to solipsism, can only be known by one's mind and not in relation to other beings. Some psychologists believe newborns to be initially solipsistic. Infants cry in the absence of parents nearby because they believe that when not visible, the parents stop existing. Eventually, children learn from observing others to reject solipsism. Then we go to cynicism, which appeared slightly later, 5th century before Christ. The Cynics attempt to offer people the possibility of happiness and freedom from suffering in the age of uncertainty. The meaning of life is mental lucidity and self-sufficiency, eudaimonia also called. To achieve self-sufficiency, a person must become free from external influences such as wealth, fame, and power. There is no central authority on cynicism or any official doctrine. It was an influential tradition in ancient Greece anyways. Cynicism is more closer to Christian belief, it seems like. In terms of the part where it says that one needs to become free from external influences such as wealth, fame, and power. That's what Christianity says too. Then we go to hedonism, which is appeared also 4th century before Christ. Hedonism offers us life based on seeking pleasure, which is an interesting approach, and avoiding suffering. Simple pleasures like eating, dancing, and playing music are meaningful in themselves. Hedonism is an ancient idea that was later formulated by Greek philosopher Democritus. Then we go to Platonism, which also appeared before 4th century before Christ. For the Greek philosopher Plato, which most of us probably heard, the meaning of life is the pursuit of knowledge. In his book Apology, Plato quotes his teacher Socrates, saying that the unexamined life is not worth living. Once again, quote, the unexamined life is not worth living. In a nutshell, Platonism is the idea that there exists such thing as pure forms, which are abstractions. And abstraction is something that neither exists in space nor time. It is completely non-physical, and yet it is knowable. Knowledge of pure forms is the meaning of life. Daunting as it sounds, there is a shortcut of sorts. According to Plato, we are all born with all knowledge inside us, but we have to recall it or rediscover it, which is concept of called anamnesis.
Have to follow long KYC requirements to get access to crypto exchange when the biggest mystery of crypto
Plato's
is
most
that
influential work is The Republic, published in 375 before Christ.
Exchange when the biggest mystery of crypto is that
Next concept, legalism, Chinese concept which appeared also 4th century before Christ. The legalists believe that humans are inherently selfish and cannot be trusted to behave morally. A strong government system can steer humans to continue behaving in their selfish ways while the system as a whole benefits from their work. Interesting approach to me. The meaning of life is then in the acquisition of skills that make a person work valuable to the state, which in turn benefits society. Is not it what we are living today for? Is not it basis of capitalism? Everybody works selflessly, but we build society. Capitalism is not it based on selfishness. So we can say that it originated in China then, and it originated in the book which is called the Book of Lord Sheng, written by a politician who raised Qin dynasty to its leading position in Asia. Epicureanism appeared also around 4th century before Christ. The Greek philosopher Epicurus was a materialist ancient Greek philosopher who offered that the meaning of life was in achieving sustainable pleasure, which leads to a state of tranquility and freedom from fear, ataraxia. What sort of pleasures are meaningful? Mental, not physical, because mental pleasures exist in the past, the present, and the future, while physical pleasures are fleeting. The poem on the nature of things, the Rerum Nature, compiles the core arguments and theories of Epicureanism. Quietism, which appeared around 3rd century before Christ. Quietists believe that philosophy as such has no answers to offer. Instead, its role is in pointing out linguistic confusions in the questions presenting to philosophers. Thus, the question of the meaning of life assumes that we understand the meaning of the words meaning and life. Oh my god, why so confusing? Any attempt to pin down the meaning of either word reveals the meaninglessness of the question, and thus the meaning of life cannot be understood by seeking such question. Once again, I will try to explain what all this means. So this guy says that when we are asking the question, what is meaning of life, we assume that we all understand what is meaning of the word meaning and meaning of the word life, which is not always true. That's basically, he goes really deep into this. Elements of quietism are found in both Eastern and Western philosophies, with Taoism known for its reluctance to use language, and Greek Pyrrhonism embracing non-verbal suspension of judgment. Then we talk about Aristotelianism circa 3rd century before Christ. The Greek philosopher Aristotle reminds us that no one lives a good life in order to achieve some other goal. Smart. It's kind of what I believe too. So once again, one lives a good life. No one lives a good life in order to achieve some other goal. Wow. No one lives a good life in order to achieve some other goal. Being a good person in itself is sufficient. Virtue is the goal. There is no list of virtues because we all know what they are. For example, it is virtue to have friends. We don't need to be taught that. Virtue and the rules of ethics are not a theoretical concept according to Aristotle. A human being knows what is good. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics is the best known work in his thinking. Then, next one is Stoicism, which originated also circa 3rd century BC. The Stoics want you to be free from desire for pleasure or fear of pain. How does one become dispassionate? Only through wisdom can one be free to act justly. A wise person becomes a sage through rational action that does not violate the laws of nature. Hellenistic philosopher Zeno of Citium founded the Stoic school of philosophy in Athens about 300 BC. The only complete Stoic works we have are by Seneca, Epictetus, and the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, whose diary meditations records his progress on self-transformation towards becoming a sage. Then we need to talk about modern humanism, and then we have quite a jump here. Now we are talking about late 1300s, 1300. Humanism points out that humans themselves are responsible for the fate of humans in this world. Thus, promoting and helping other humans is the meaning of life. Then let's talk about subjectivism. 300 years later, approximately 1600. According to subjectivists, the meaning of life varies by individual depending on one's mental state. The more a person achieves their own goals that are set by themselves, the more meaningful their life is. Subjectivists reject that there may be objective values in life that one should achieve despite subjective goals. Subjectivism is attributed to René Descartes and his thought experiment, I think therefore I exist, which I don't find quite close to me. Liberalism appeared in 1689, the liberalists trust that a person is naturally free to choose what to do without permission from any other person. Anyone attempting to limit freedoms must first prove that it is necessary. The meaning of life is then in protecting individual liberties against the political coercion that may or may not be justified. English philosopher and physician John Locke's work, The Treatise of Government, is the foundation text of liberal ideology. Kantianism appeared in 1785. Kantianism proposes that every human action should be judged according to a universal maximum or principle. If an action violates the principle, then a person failed their duty toward humans. For example, if people followed the maximum kill anyone you dislike, when applied universally, it would lead to the end of humanity. So the meaning of life is in fulfilling your duty to follow universal principles. The origin of Kantianism is German philosopher Immanuel Kant. Nihilism appeared in 1862. Nihilism, also called pessimism, is the belief that nothing can make life meaningful. The nihilists see something inherent about humans that prevents us from finding meaning in life. It can be the human tendency for being dissatisfied or always seeking something or being bored once it is found. The origin of nihilism is ancient, but amongst philosophers, German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche concept will to power is most often associated with it. Next one, pragmatism. Originated 1870s. Unlike many other schools of philosophy, the pragmatisms have no official creed. In general, their views suggest that rather than truth about life, we should seek a useful understanding of life. The American philosopher and psychologist William James, one of pragmatism's main figures, argued that truth could be made but not sought. Is life worth living? James answered, maybe. The answer depends on what you do with your life. The meaning of life is then doing the thing that most contributes to the most human good over the longest course. That is bringing maximum value to humanity, which is also what ancient Eastern psychologists mentioned, probably. There is hardly a main source of pragmatism doctrine, but William James is one of its most prolific authors. His book, William James on Habit, Will, Truth, and the Meaning of Life covers the subject. Logical empirism, 1920s, also called logical positivism. The idea of logical positivism is that anything that the only type of knowledge available to us, in fact, scientifically verifiable and observable. Anything else is meaningless. The meaning of life can then only be derived from one's actual experience. We cannot know if life has a meaning beyond what we can see. Although the logical positivists did not have a leader, the Vienna cycle is the movement's most influential group. Existentialism originated 1940s. The existentialists think that we all begin life with existential angst, a feeling of anxiety about apparent meaninglessness of our lives. To find meaning in life, a person has to decide on their own values and then take action to live according to them. The first existentialist text is German philosopher Martin Heidegger's work, Being and Time, which is an exploration of the being that we ourselves are. Absurdism appeared in 1942. Absurdists ask, why would you even ask such a useless question? The question is destined to fail because of the conflict between the human mind that desperately seeks meaning and a world where everything falls short of having been immutable meaning. Looking for meaning in life is a Sisyphean task. The more you search for one, the less you understand it. Sisyphus became a symbol of life's meaninglessness because in Greek mythology, he was punished for his misdeeds by being forced to roll an immense boulder up a hill only for it to tumble back every time he neared the summit. This went on for eternity. The absurdist French philosopher Albert Camus proposed that people should embrace the absurdity of our existence and then proceed to willfully live their lives. The defining work on absurdism is Albert Camus' work, The Myth of Sisyphus.